Hey, let's make sure our levels are halfway decent here, hopefully. What's up, Daniel? Good to see you, man. Everything is going pretty decent, I have to say. And thank goodness it's Tasty Tuesday, though, man. I'm thirsty as hell. It's been like, not a bad week, but a crazy day. But I've made it through this far. If I've got this far, then I think it's smooth sailing from here, hopefully. The good news is we have a great lineup tonight, I think. One of my favorite distilleries through my journey. I was lucky enough to stumble along to Campbelltown and to find Springbank. And Springbank, as most of you guys already know, is the medium level peated range that they have. They have their non-peated stuff, which is Hazelburn. And they also have their heavily peated stuff, which is going to be Longrow. And tonight, thankfully, we have not one, but two Longrows we're going to look at. And this is going to be really fun. These are from Eric. Malt Muser is going to be coming by here shortly. Let me make sure I get his invite sent to him. And we're going to look at a couple beauties. I have a feeling. I've never tried these. These are completely new to me. This is the Longrow Red 11-year Pinot Noir 53.1% ABV. And then we've got the Longrow Red 13-year Chilean Cabernet Sauvignon. And that's at 51.6%. Both what I would consider cask strength. I believe these would be considered that. Sometimes you got to be careful with cask strength. Just because it's a higher number doesn't necessarily always mean it's cask strength. Just because it's a lower number doesn't automatically mean it's not a cask strength as well. Like I was lucky enough to have a Highland Park 25-year at cask strength, but it was only at 40. I think it was like 46 to 48% tops. I think it was closer to 46. And sometimes that happens. I'm not sure why. If maybe some of you guys can talk about the differences between how the casks come through when they're doing it at cask strength. I mean, I'm not sure why one would be upwards closer to the mid 60s versus the lower, we'll say mid 40s. That's just kind of interesting. Hey, Trooper, good to see you, man. And everybody else, wow. Huge turnout. I really appreciate it. Trooper, hope you're doing well in Louisiana. And what did you bring to sip? I'm wondering. What Highland Park was kept. It was independent bottling at this was done with exclusive malts. It was the Highland Park 25. It was an exclusive malts release. I want to say there was 250 bottles approximately, and I sipped this about 4 years ago, I'm thinking. And I'm sure this is long gone. Petite Cellars in Maryland had a couple bottles of this stuff. Yeah, it's a random deal, but very legit. I double checked to make sure I wasn't losing my mind because I was like, cask strength at like 40-something%. That's strange, but okay. It's kind of weird, but I guess it can happen that way. Good to see Meister French and Jason Coates and everybody else. Ma here. Wow, man, we got a full house. Speaking of full houses, I think
this is over Reeds. What's up, buddy?
I don't know if you play with the full deck though.
You sound like my conservative family.
Oh, sorry, man.
Kidding. How are you,
buddy? You're a trip, man. It's Tasty Tuesday can never come too quick enough for me.
That's true. You speak truths, my friend.
And I am so eager. I was just kind of setting up the page of Springbank and Campbelltown, and then the Hazelburn versus Springbank versus Longrow, the heavily peated stuff. And this is definitely one that if you've already tried like Ardbeg and Laphroaig and Agavon, if you'd like at least one of the three, then I think you're ready for something like a Longrow. Or how do you think it should go as far as like, if you're on your whiskey journey and you've already crossed that first peat or two whiskey, how soon should someone step into the Longrow range, you think?
Man, I mean,
sorry to drop a doozy.
Yeah, That's a great question. That's a great question. They have a standard 46% peated. I think it's a pretty decent. I think it's a pretty decent starter. I mean,
would it be that one?
Right. I mean, if you're into peated whiskey, I mean, I don't think that's a big step to go between. It's not a big step between, having your Kilhoman or your Lefroy or whatever, and that. These reds, I think, they have a lot of nuance to them, which is, I think, what makes them so delicious. And, I don't know if I could say with a straight face I would have appreciated them in their full glory, in the first couple of years of my journey, but, I definitely do now. So, I don't know.
Are these your first two?
Objective to some degree.
Are these your first Longrow Reds, or have you already had the red previously before these two?
I have one other. I have the Cab Blanc. But these are the two that I've spent the most time with. I mean, I haven't spent a ton of time with either of them, as you can see.
Oh, nice, yeah.
13. But basically, yeah, I've been really digging them so far. I just wanted to there's a couple good ones in the chat here that were mentioning about it, which I thought was funny. Jason Coates, Mad Prop said, we've made Tuesdays interesting. Justin says,
thanks.
Like the Joker in the deck with the long hair.
There you go.
We've managed to make Tuesdays exciting. Cheers, Jason. Trooper Henry. Yeah, definitely going to be a good bottle. Both of these are fantastic in my opinion.
Yeah, this is I want to say I have had an older Longrow Red before, but I think it was like during an expo, and some of these whiskey expos, it's like you're treated like cattle and you're kind of in the herds and you're trying to enjoy the whiskey, and it's sometimes I had mixed experiences with doing that.
Sure.
So this is my first, I would consider, like, true Longrow Red, like, sit down experience. So this should be really good.
Yeah, no, that's definitely great, man. Before we dive in, I'm gonna pour. We're gonna start with the Pinot Noir matured 11.
That's what I was going to ask you. And I looked at the sheet and I thought, well, I think he probably meant it for the Pinot Noir to be first, probably most likely.
Yeah, we'll start with the Pinot. These are all in that, like, at retail $110 range, $120 range. So they're not exactly cheap. Not exactly entry scotch.
That's not crazy though either. I mean, $150. If it was like a Dalmore, it'd be $150.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, well, I mean, before we dive into this, do you check in? Have you got anything new in the last week?
Can you see anything that doesn't fit the room? Does anything like stand out as like a?
I'm noticing a couple things back.
Well, let me bring this up a little bit more so you can get a better look. Anything in particular that stands out?
Is that an Amroot? Is that an Amroot?
Is, yes.
Oh, and I also see what looks to me like a new art bag. What's that all about, Telex?
Oh, that's the art bag, the ride.
Oh, committee release. Bag.
Yeah, it's committee release right after Mickey Heads jumped the ship, and they send him on his merry way. And then I got a couple of these. One for you, the Emirate Tama, which is the peated port cask. This is a really tough to find one. I'm surprised that they had a couple bottles of this.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
56.5% on that one. Single barrel, single cask. And this one is 51.8%. Also pretty high in ABV there. And Rye by Ardbeg should be really, I think, pretty interesting to try later on sometime. And the ice came in recently too from Highland Park, and I had the fire like a couple of weeks before that. So we've got the light, the dark, the fire, and the ice. We'll take a look at some point down the road when we meet up too. Very fun things to do.
Locked and loaded, man. Yeah, that's really exciting. I don't have nearly as much exciting things to report to you about new things since the last time we talked. I got the Magic Cask from Compass Box. So that's going to be interesting. It took me a while to get my hands on it. I also got the new Redbreast 12 cask strength, the first batch of 20. Well, it's not new. It's the first batch from 2020. So that's it for me.
In his defense, he went crazy like a month or two ago, and just went ballistic on the whiskey purchases. So I think you've definitely done your fair share for quite a while.
Yeah. I got to revert back to manor mode now. The bank account's getting a little dry, so
I hear you there, man. You went pretty nuts though. I mean, you bought probably what I buy like in 1 month in like a year or something. It was crazy.
I got a lot of good stuff in. I was fortunate to have things work out and seize the opportunity. But
when he helped me out on the you found that Craigellachie, that exceptional cask we'll be doing later.
Yep.
You helped me find that Cragganmore 20 we'll be looking at. That looks beautiful too, by the way. And it tastes pretty good too. I won't spoil it, but I think we'll be in for a little bit of some fun. And that Lefroy Kyrgyz 2015, you scored that one for me as well, which is awesome.
Hell yeah, man! That 2015 Kyrgyz is dynamite whiskey, man.
Solid, I'd say. Mahir asks me if that's the Madeira finish. No, it's just the peated port cask finish. It's the Atma, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I think Mahir is from India, right?
Yep, he's in Delhi. So he's the one who encouraged me on a couple Paul Johns, but definitely has a good understanding of Amrut. So yeah, have you seen that one before?
Yeah, Mahir, and how do you pronounce is it Atma? I'm assuming Atma or Atma. I'm not sure which one. It's probably one of the two. Probably the Atma if it's two A's together. I'm assuming they want you to stretch it out, but I'm not quite sure.
Right. So, shall we?
I think we shall, man. I'm so thirsty. I can scream.
All right. Well, let's not see that. Let's move forward. Here's what we got going on here. The first one we're going to do tonight. This is the Longrow 11. This is 11 years old, 53.1%. It is Pinot Noir cask matured. So basically what we're looking at here is 8 years ex-bourbon, 3 years in Pinot Noir barriques. For folks who don't know yet, Longrow is from Springbank. And Springbank has both the Springbank line, the Longrow line, and then the Hazelburn line, which is like a triple distilled line. So this one in particular is the peated line from Springbank. So it comes in the kind of Springbank boxes that you probably have seen before. These retail, they're not necessarily super easy to get, but if you find them, they're in that 120, sometimes 130 range, sometimes even a little bit higher. This one in particular, non-chill filtered, natural color, as all Springbank whiskeys are. And yeah, that's the tail of the tape on this one. I will mention Longrow Red. So this is from the Longrow Red series. They do have a regular Longrows. Like I have a Longrow 18 right there, for example. But they have these Red series is basically all wine finishes, wine maturation. So
I was going to ask you what made it a red versus like the regular stuff, and that makes sense. It's all based on red wine, I guess.
So they have Cabernet Sauvignon, they have Cab Franc, they have Pinot Noir, they have Malbec. I think there might be one other one too that I'm forgetting. Some are easier to find than others. This one in particular, this 11 is probably from 2 years ago. I think they have a 12 out now.
Nice.
And yeah, so this is Pinot Noir. If folks have had Pinot, it's a very like rich red fruit drying kind of wine. And so a lot of flavor, maybe kind of like Merlot. I don't know if you want to describe it that way. Maybe not quite as heavy as Merlot, but
it's not as it's not as dry either, I'd say, as Merlot.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the tail of the tape here.
One thing we could talk about maybe is just the greatness of the Springbank craft system. I mean, when you're doing your Scotch journey, you're going to run across certain distilleries that take a lot of more time and pride in how they're developing the whiskey. People like that work at Springbank come to mind, Deanston, that type of thing. But sometimes you don't get that, and I think that's one thing that justifies the higher price that you might see out of a Springbank whiskey is the fact that they do their own bottling, they do their own malting, the whole shebang is all done there at Springbank. So it makes a big difference when you got your hands around the whole entire process versus, distribution and all that mess. But
yeah, absolutely. And Springbanks tend to be a little bit more expensive, and they're definitely, probably not entry level whiskeys for precisely the reasons that Telex was mentioning. Another fun little fact about Springbank: they also own an independent bottler. So most independent bottlers are independent. But Springbank owns an independent bottling company called Cadenheads. So when you see Cadenheads independent bottles, if you're out at a shop and you're like, what the hell is this? It's actually owned by Springbank. Whereas there is another distillery, which I quite like, which is owned by an independent bottler, which is Ben Romick. That Gordon MacPhail owns Ben Romick. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting little thing. But Springbank's been doing stuff the quote unquote traditional way as much as you can. And so that's the tale of the tape.
And the only thing about Springbanks that I don't think it's like their downfall or anything, but one thing you got to take into account when you're enjoying their whiskey is sometimes the consistency might not be there because of the fact that they do a lot with the craft, and they're not going to like color it all the same. They're not going to use the same type of techniques. They're trying to keep it consistent, but it's really hard to do that every year with even the same type of bottle, year in and year out when you're that much involved with the whole process of it.
Yeah. So since these are my pours, Telex, I'm going to let you take lead on your experience with these.
Well, I appreciate the pours, man. This is awesome. Gave it a little swirl in the glass. I've had it sit out for a little bit. Poured this. I didn't pour the other one yet. I poured this one right before I turned it on, and it does hold its shape pretty well. It's funny because it's got like a run right away, but it also keeps like a big band. So I think it's going to have a good medium viscosity going on if I had to take a guess. The ABV on it's pretty high too, being at 53.1. Yeah. So that's going to be, I think we're in for a real treat, man. It's got a couple slow legs. That's what I like to see. Oh wow, sweet fruit off the bat, like. Oh wow, it reminds me of like when I was little and you get those really good the gumdrops.
Sure.
Like the orange and
the orange gumdrop. Right when you said gumdrops, the first one I thought it was orange because I'm getting the same thing. That's a great pickup there, man. Well put.
You get some like candy ginger in there too. It's got this like what I would imagine like an old barn to smell like. It's got kind of I guess it's that dunnage. They probably use the dunnage warehouses for these too, I would imagine. Same type of thing.
Yeah, and the dunnage warehouse, for folks who might not know about it, basically is like a warehouse with an earthen floor, right? And then they only stack, I think, 3 high, and it imparts some flavor and quality onto it. And so I think with Springbank, it's definitely true.
Some nice spice even on the nose. You can detect like a red chili.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like like a cayenne almost. Do you pick up any raspberry in this?
Yeah, it's got some different layers of, I would say, medium mixed berries, like your strawberries and raspberries.
There's that tartness, and then there's this. It's like a parfait where there's like that kind of vanilla,
like whipped cream, sort of.
Yeah. Just a ton going on in this. I mean, the dominant notes, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's the orange, it's the red fruit.
Now it's like
spice. It's are just like all over the place. I mean, you pick these things up on the edges are just crazy.
It's changing. I'm also now getting like a barbecue type of note, like a pulled pork. Huh. It's got like a deep, spicy rub on it too. Huh. It's funny because it fluctuates between a really heavy, nice sweetness, but also like a heavier spice kind of feel too.
Yeah. I'm wondering, are you picking up like just honest to goodness grape jam in this? Like there is a grape jam note that I pick up in this, like that, the stuff you get when you go to the diner, and it's in the little package, the Welsh.
Yeah, the Welsh's, yeah, those purple grape packets. It's also got some red grapes in there too. It's got like this. It's funny because it goes all the way from like like a light sweetness to a medium red berry, and it also has some deeper, darker things in there too.
Yep.
Oh man, it's amazing how it changes every time I come back to it. So this is definitely, I would say, on the more complex side to, especially for an 11-year statement. It definitely has a lot of going on in it. Wow, I even get some cashews, like some almost like peanut butter notes. That's all over the place, man. It's in a good way. It's like, it's weird though.
Normally something is like, it'll be interesting how, I'm really curious to see how this transfers onto the palate for you. But I also, I'm getting that same thing, man. And walnut.
Yeah. And it's funny. It's got, and that's where this almost slight, I don't even want to say minerality or bitterness, but it does have like a little bit of a tinge, I think, from that like roasted walnut type of vibe, and and it helps it balance everything together. And even though we might give you a note that we're getting that you might not necessarily like by itself, we're also enjoying the whole process of all these things kind of flowing together, because there are some whiskeys out there, and that Springbank 15 rum cask comes to mind right off the bat, where the notes were great, but they didn't combine very well. It felt like a disjointed whiskey. This one tells a similar story of complexity, but all the notes kind of fall in line in a better way. To me, that's what makes it a little bit of a better experience, if you think of it that way.
Shall we dive in?
Oh, wow. The last nose, it was like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Because I was still getting that grape jam that you were talking about.
That's where you're getting the grape jam. You're right on the peanut. I actually didn't pick that up, but the grape jam is there for sure.
And then this like peanut cashew wave came in right with it, and I thought to myself, that is a damn peanut butter and jelly sandwich. All right, let's have a little sip.
Go. This is the Longrow Red 11 Pinot Noir matured Sláinte.
Sláinte, guys.
Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Oh, wow, man. That is good. Wow. Wow, that. I know it's the ABV doing it, man, but for an 11-year, that's got a lot going on.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
That is a nice wave of flavor. It's as complex as the nose was. There's a lot going on in this.
It's really dense, really creamy, and then you get this heavy spice dry note at the end that kind of carries it through to the end.
Really, and take it. This is an ex-bourbon cask too, right? Along with it,
8 years ex-bourbon, 3 years Pinot Barriques.
It's a really nice marriage of. I think that's why the nose and palate work so well together. Is that the it's enough of the ex-bourbon influences there with that Pinot Noir, man. That's a beautiful marriage. It's a little hot on neat, but it's definitely enjoyable still. Oh, man.
Yeah, it does have some heat on the end for sure.
I get the citrus. I get like a nice, really light layer of white pepper or salt. It's not heavily briny. It's not maritime or anything like that. But it's got still a little nice effervescence to it. It's got a bright.
I think what's really striking me about this one is just how well married these two very distinct maturations are. The bourbon and the Pinot is like seamless.
I definitely get the red wine characteristics too, which I'm glad.
Yeah, it's such a seamless mix together, man. Like they have the bourbon notes are there, but I swear it's like you blink your eye, then you pick up the more like tannic red fruit notes, and they harmonize so well. You know, it doesn't feel like a two-note thing where it's very like distinct from each other. Like these have been put, I think that 3 years, which is what the maturation is with the Pinot, did really well on this. Again, raspberry, grape jam, the peanut butter thing that you mentioned is there. Bit of an ashiness.
Yeah, it's weird. Even though it's like not like a mouthful of an ashtray, but it does have a nice smokiness to it overall. It's definitely more on the cigar side than like a cigarette. It's more in like a robust kind of a smoke.
Yep.
A hearty smoke.
I think it actually this is a more smoky whiskey than it is a peated one. Like in terms of what I'm picking up, you know, that effervescence, and it might be because it was kind of hot on the end, that the effervescence that you usually get mid palate from the heavy whiskey is just not showing up as much. Also getting tapioca pudding, like a ton of.
Oh wow, yeah.
Tapioca pudding, again, vanilla yogurt, a vanilla raspberry parfait type thing. Nice charcoal, ashy smoke, cigar ash.
I like the smoke aspect of the finish, but I wish it did have more of like I don't know, like a chocolate or a fudgy kind of note. That's the only thing that I don't want to say it's missing, but there's not any real earthiness to this dram. It's definitely more like lots of great fruit, lots of great spice, both deep and light layered on fruit and spice. But as far as like any type of earthiness, that's the only thing I don't have right now. We'll see what a little drop of water does. Let's see.
Yeah, there's not much in the way of chocolate or like just anything like a dominant note kind of carrying through to like hold the body of this together. That's a really great point. I'm putting a little, I'm doing 2 drops, maybe 3.
Yeah, thankfully this whiskey is so high that you can have a few to play with and see, you know, if you like it with. Some people like just 1 or 2 drops. Some people like, 5 or 6. And this is a whiskey where you can kind of play with it because it might take more of the water than you imagine it to get to the level that you want to enjoy it at. So you never know.
Oh man, black cherry.
Oh wow, yeah.
Oh, black cherry.
It really brings out. Wow, it's not just subtle black cherry. It's like black cherry, like in your face.
Black cherry soda, almost.
You nailed that one, man. Wow.
Oh. Huh. God, and then there's you said peanut butter before. I'm gonna actually add just like. So dominant notes I'm getting is definitely black cherry, like sweet fruit, dark fruit, vanilla. But then like kind of secondary, like, if you dig deep, you were saying earlier peanut butter with water, it's drier. It's more like a peanut brittle or like a dry toffee or nougat almost. Oh man!
Oh yeah, that nougat. It's got that.
It's kind of base, but it's also like got a slight flavor to it.
It's got a creaminess almost to it. The smell, like a vanilla almost.
Nice smoke.
Yeah, and you can still get the smoke off of it too.
Pineapple.
And you know that with it, this is very much a smoky malt, but I don't detect much actual peat or like bite at much of it. It's definitely more in the smoky realm. I'd love to see sometimes distiller does these waves of where they measure the smoke level, the peat level, and different levels of different things. I'd love to see what the spectrum of this would be on the smoke versus the peat side and see how they have that design.
Man, what about like sweet, like sugary barbecue? A very like a tomato-based barbecue. What is that, Carolina? Like that really, not the molasses kind. It's more just that very sweet kind of like liquid smoke stuff in it.
Oh man, and the what is that? Oh, I was getting a note and I just lost it. It was right along there with your. What was the last note you just got?
Like a sweet tomato-based barbecue.
It was something to do with the. I was getting all of a sudden like a wave of honey, like a real sweet wave of honey with that too. Oh, that nougat's still there. Huh. Taking a sip after the water.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really nice.
Yeah, I like the nose better with water. I'm going to go in for a taste.
Hmm.
Oh my God.
This might actually be better with the water. Wow.
No doubt. Again, what I think you were mentioning was lacking. It still doesn't have a huge concentrated kind of body note that kind of goes all the way through it.
It's got more of one after the water,
more
though.
With the water, exactly. I'm right there with you. It's more of a cocoa.
Yeah, I'm getting that, after the nougat kind of faded. Yeah, now this wave of like cocoa powders coming in. That's crazy.
Coffee too, like a dark roast coffee, and again, really bright citrus, acidic fruits, dark red fruits, the caramel, the vanilla. There's just a lot happening here, and again, it's so well balanced. I can't emphasize this enough. Like usually a whiskey. I mean, there are some whiskeys you'll get that have a red wine maturation or finish like this, that flavor is just so, it's like distinct. This, it's like you got to kind of search for it because it's so well married. And I think that's one of the things that's really exciting about this.
The finish is getting kind of like a really slight tobacco tea kind of note.
Yeah.
That's really good, man. It's funny because usually I don't like a real heavily dry whiskey, and I don't want to say this is ultra dry, but it's dry, but it's not overly dry where I feel like I'm parched after I enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's got enough of a great viscosity. I would say that's a medium to heavy mouth coat, and that's I think what saves it from being overly too dry somehow. It's got like a nice waxiness to it. It's not as waxy as like a Kleinleich, but it's definitely not in the thin area by any means, I'd say.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's solid. I mean,
yeah. You ready for final thoughts on this one?
Man, let me have a little bit more. I saved my last pour, and I was debating on whether to do it neat or with water, but it was so enjoyable with the water. I think this one needs a couple of drops. I hate to say it, but it's still good without. But I think
every whiskey needs a couple of drops, in my opinion, except for the Old Forester 1910 Old Fine whiskey. That does not need any drops. It literally is perfect out of the bottle. There's not many like that. Let me know in the chat if there's any whiskeys you guys think are just like absolutely perfect neat. I'm a big believer in adding water because it always brings a little bit more out, and it can make or break a whiskey in some ways.
This one, I think it definitely tremendously helped it. Not that it was weak before, but to me, it gave it definitely a large boost after it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And not just on the nose or not just on the palate or not just on the finish, like all three, I think, got boosted by a couple of drops. Definitely brings the not just the ex-bourbon elements of the cask up front with the red wine. It also brings a lot more of this one is funny because usually when you add water, you get more spice. To me, this one keeps it about the same level. It doesn't like enhance it or take it down.
Interesting. I find it to be a little bit more oaky with water.
I agree with you, but to me the oaky properties on this one aren't as overly, what's the word for it? Not tannin, but you don't get a lot of like overbite from the wood aspect. Even though the wood does come through more with the water, it doesn't bite too much where the spice level gets kicked up so much you're kind of like, oh gosh, it's a lot, you know. Okay, I think I'm ready to go in this one. If you or do you want to go first in this one?
No, it was my pour. You go first.
Man, that's a solid one, I think. The craft is great. Like we said, it's got a good age statement, even though it's only 11 years old. It's still there, thank God. It's 53.1. These guys don't color their whiskey or chill filter it. None of that nonsense already out of the gate. So that's even bigger pluses. This one, if I was going all neat, I enjoyed the nose. The palate was kind of the one thing that made me kind of like, I'm not quite sure because that lack of earthiness, but it did come through after the water. The finish is pretty good. Not overly dry, but dry enough where you feel like you're definitely got some good maturation, even just for 11 years. If I was scoring it before the water, I probably would have only gave it like 3 point. I'm thinking 5-ish. With the water, though, I think it really boosted it up to around. I would have to say I would give this a 4. I was thinking almost 4.25, but
Wow.
man, I'd love to see an older, like a 15, maybe even an older version of it at some point. I know they do have 18 and 21-year-old reds out there. This definitely makes me want to buy one and try it because of how good this one actually is, even just 11 years. So I'm thinking I'm going to sit at a 4 out of 5 on this one.
I like it.
I'm pouring out the drops.
The Whiskey Tech. That's a buy it story, y'all. Keep your eyes peeled for the Pinot Noir. Longrow Red. I think I'm gonna be basically almost right there with you. This is a young whiskey, and you can tell. But at the same time, I really appreciate again the merit, like how the craft of this, how well the red wine is married with the bourbon notes. It's got great flavor. It's got a lot of complexity. I think it's really enjoyable. It is a bit hot and astringent. It might kind of like, which prevents me from maybe wanting to have multiple drams of it in a row. It's definitely not a whiskey that I would like sip all night. But I appreciate it in its own right. I'm going to give it I'd be really, really interested to try the older versions. I think there's a 12 and maybe a 13. I'm going to go with a solid 3.5 out of 5 on this, which means I do recommend you folks try this for sure and grab one at a good price. This is a super quality whiskey. I think it's going to lead really well into the second one we're going to do in hour number 2. Yeah, totally dig it. Really, really, really quality. Longrow Red series is a very unique, and you're not going to find that many heavily peated whiskeys that they're doing these types of maturations with, especially from a place like Campbelltown, especially with the ABV that we're seeing on these. Really great. So yeah, I'm happy to sit at a 3.5 on this. It means give it a try. Pinot Noir.
I thought I saw some older reds out here. I saw Dustin's comment that there weren't any old ones, not least modern ones. I saw like I think it was a 17 at some point, but I'm trying to find it. But there might not be I might have been thinking about the 21 and the 18 regular Longrow releases. I thought they had some older ones than that, though. So the 14 to 17 might be the oldest ones they have, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's interesting. I could have sworn I saw an older one out there other than that. But, I'm seeing a lot of 14s and 11s pretty much across the board, it looks like. But, yeah, it definitely makes you want to try some of their other stuff because that was definitely as enjoyable as some of those really good Hazelburn 14 like Olorosos I've had.
Right. Definitely.
It's right up there. Yeah, I think it was the single cast that is the one that I was thinking of. That was just that must have been like a one-off. And I was thinking about the Longrow 18 and the they have a 21, I think, as well. And that's the ones I was getting kind of confused together. But
sure.
Third, it has ex-bourbon and ex-sherry as well. That's what's confusing. But I guess there's no red wine in it, and that's why they don't call it a red. Okay, I got it now. Interesting.
Yeah, great pour, man. This is a great. I think nobody would be disappointed in this.
I don't see how the. Has anyone been disappointed by any Longrow releases that they've ever had? Is there one that people should kind of stay away from more than others? Is one kind of like a standout where it just didn't dot enough I's, cross enough T's for people? I'm just curious if.
Telex, I'm going to go get myself a little more water and take a swig. So I will be back in just a minute.
No problem, man. For some reason, Dustin is now trying to say that there's no 14s, but I'm sitting here looking at 14-year. Let's see. There's this one. Let's see. There's let's see what else can we find here. Oh, there's a Burgundy finish. Let's do that one. So I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Dustin, but there's bunches of 14 years. Oh, those aren't reds either? Jeez. So the reds are like, that's crazy. So they only have 11-year reds? Interesting. I'm trying to find anything else. Oh, there's one red 12 of the Pinot. I guess it's like a new version of this. But there's no... Wow, okay. So now there's just 11 red and all the rest are... I wish they had a different naming scheme because that's confusing. They got 11-year-old Australian Shiraz. Wow, that's crazy. That has really good reviews too. Wow. Huh. That's a lot. Port cask. Okay, I got it now. So 11 years, like the only ones they've got. That's pretty crazy, man. They're 10 to 13. I gotcha. Refill sherry. Oh gosh. I cannot stand to see refills. It's just not good. Good to hear. I haven't opened it yet. Uh-oh. Just catching up with some of the comments here. Unopened. Nice. Over 13. Gotcha. 3%. Yeah, it does make a huge difference on some whiskeys. I noticed just 40 to 43 even makes a huge difference. And I think the lower you are, the more the 3% difference makes. Like if it's 51 to 54, it's not going to be, I think, a near enough detectable difference than if you went from 40 to 43 or 40 to 46 or even 46 to 49 or whatever. I think the higher, in the 40s, it makes a huge difference compared to the 50s. It's just my own guess on that one from what I've gathered over time. Will be 2 years since I've gotten Scotch. Wow. Haven't had a Lefroy 10 yet. Oh, man.
What about Lefroy 10?
Ben says that he's in May will be 2 years since he's gotten to Scotch. And when he had his first single malt, but he hasn't had a Lefroy 10 yet. So, man, we got to
do it.
We got to fix that. That's crazy.
Yeah, you got to do the Lefroy 10. It's a rite of passage. Some people would argue that the quarter cask is better. I don't know.
That's a tough one, man. I mean, the cast strength 10 I think is better than the quarter, but I do like the quarter maybe better than their standard 10. But it depends on mood because that's one of those style differences. Because
I mean, I honestly think when like bang for your buck, the best Lafroig you can get is the cast strength 10. But I'm not saying it's the best Lafroig, but it's the best Lafroig in terms of like if they're going to take dollars into consideration, you really can't go wrong. It's if there was one Isla whiskey that I was going to have to drink for the rest of my life and not have others, it would be Lafroig 10 cast strength. You get a different batch up variation every year. It's hyper complex, super punchy, good price. Can't go wrong.
That's pretty true. The only other one that comes close for me from Lafroig that's standard core nowadays is the Lore, but you got to get it for around like $80 to $90.
I love the Lore. I feel like, when the Lore came out, I think there were a lot of people who were butthurt because the 18, it was supposedly replacing the 18 and all that.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, man. The Lore is one of those whiskeys where like, I've never had a whiskey where I could it's so well engineered that like it goes in like layers and they're all very distinct. I feel like every time you drink the Lore, it's like, oh, there's that cask. Then that one, then that one, then that one. And like it just goes in these steps. It's such a fun roller coaster of a whiskey. I don't understand why people hated on it so much. It's awesome.
I thought this was interesting from Jason. I might agree with him on this. The annual Lagavulin 12 over the Lafroig cast strength 10, because it is cast strength 2 on the 12 side. It is. I think I would take the Lagavulin 12 over it, but the price is definitely a lot higher than the Lafroig 10 cast strength. You got to take that into account.
Oh yeah, it's like double, right? And honestly, I've heard that the last release, the 2020, is not good. But I take Jason Coates' point. I mean, yeah, I'm with you. Like especially 2018, 2017 releases, those were freaking fantastic.
He's saying that honestly, more interested in having the quarter cask of triple wood first before the standard 10. Well, I would only do the triple if you enjoy a very oaky whiskey, because man, they're not joking when they say triple wood. It's very wood forward. And at first, when I first had it, I'll be honest, I was not a big fan. It took me to put a lot of water into it to get it to where I actually enjoyed that first. The triple wood cast strength I liked out of the bottle, like neat, it was perfect. But the standard one, that one was kind of I had to really play with the water a bit.
Yep. I feel you on that, man. I mean, look, Lafroig, it's so hard to hate on anything Lafroig. I mean, like they do have some bad whiskeys. As you and I have talked about routinely, the 4 Oak Travel Exclusive is one of the worst whiskeys I've ever had.
It's pretty bad.
That is trash. But man, I mean, the regular 10 is. Look, it's not a world beater. It's not as I like the Ardbeg 10 better. I like the Port Charlotte 10 better, but it's good. I mean, it's good. It's a good price. It's a good entry into peated Scotch. Their Carchus line is really fun. But at the end of the day, man, I mean, that cast strength 10, like I've not had a bad batch. I've had some that I like more than others, but I think it's like $75. I mean, if you're going to spend,
it's the price that's the killer on that one.
You can't. Nobody else is putting something out of that high quality at that price, and for Lafroig especially, with they add color and they still filter, but give me a Lafroig 10 cast strength, give me a Lore, like. I'm bullish on the Lore. I don't know, man. People hated on that for. I remember when I first was going to buy it, it was going to be like first heavily, I'm going to spend $100 on a serious whiskey, it was one of my first like triple digit buys. I didn't know what to do. And, I'm looking at these hating on it and they're like, this is like 3 years ago. And I found it for like $90. I ultimately bought it and I was just like, holy shit. Like I couldn't believe how good it was.
I overpaid for my first lure in Maryland. And sadly, at the first place I got it, it was 130, so it was really up in the high end. But still, even when I got it at like 110, when after I did a little more crafty buying, but it's still in Maryland, it's still on the higher end. I thought it was definitely well worth it because I could tell that the lure has some. It might only have some of the 10 or a little older stuff in there, but there is some older stuff in there as well. It seemed like to me, where it was kind of like a really good blend of old and younger whiskey together, and and if they do have supposedly some, older than 15 to 18-year-old stuff in there, and if that's the case, then, I don't mind paying a little bit more, but yeah, 90 is a much better price than what they're paying for around here, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I stocked up. I have a couple backup bottles. There was a place selling them for 75. Yeah, I bought.
Wow.
So I have 3 backups. I was just like, yeah, I got to do this. There's never going to be a time where I don't want to drink the lore. And so, I'm just going to be real about it. I think the lore is fantastic.
Same here. And some days, depending on my mood, I do love the 18, and I do think it might be a little bit better, but it's not like night and day difference between like quality wise to me, even though the lore is a, quote, NAS unquote. I think it does stand up to, with older whiskeys, and it would it definitely kills like some of the younger offerings out there, I'd say. Yeah.
I mean, it's a testament to like the hate on NASs, and I understand. I wish it wasn't an NAS, but it's one of that and Ugadal, and there are others, but like
exactly
NAS whiskeys that absolutely kill it.
Ugadal is definitely one that rivals the lore, I'd say, with quality. It's right up there. And they might be, they don't really tell you much about the recipe as far as what kind of old juice they're using, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're using some 15-year-old stuff in the Ugadal, on the side somewhere. Sherry, maybe. I don't know how they do the blend, but it's definitely glorious. And I've never had a bad Ugadal so far. I've had better ones, like you said, than others. But
there's no bad Ugadal.
There's no bad Ugadal. Not so far, at least.
Not that I've had. Definitely not. There's a couple I haven't caught wind of what the Carchis is going to be this year. But have you heard anything about what the new Carchis is going to be?
Not the new Carchis, but I did hear about the Ardbeg Scorch being the new release. Now, they typically Ardbeg here in Virginia / Maryland, they release their new committee releases usually this week. The new Ardbeg is a committee release, but I don't think it's the regular one. So I'm not sure if they're doing the Scorch soon, or has anyone heard when the new release is going to be, or was the Ardbeg it? Was that like they just did it a little earlier this year? I'm not sure if COVID had something to do with it, but.
You're going to give us an impromptu first taste of that Ardbeg tonight?
Oh, man, I don't know about that. I don't know. It is tempting. I'm looking to see if because sometimes I do get lucky with the some of the news on the side. The Carriage's third. Here we go. 2021. 1 second. Well, the 2021, I guess, would be the port one, wouldn't it? Or was that 2020?
No, that was the 2020.
Gotcha. Wow, that's selling for $90 now? That's crazy. No way.
The Carchis?
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
As I thought they were selling it for a lot more when it first came out. It felt like it, at least. 2021. I haven't seen any new news on that particular one. I'm trying to see if I don't think I see. Has anybody heard anything about the new Carriages 2021? I don't think it's been released, but you never know.
Well, it's not released. It'll be a while, but usually you start getting the rumblings. Some blog will post something, they find out something about it. I'm really excited. I always get the Carchis, so.
I know that this, the 2021 Scorch is supposed to be the committee release for this year. It's supposed to be ex-bourbon at 51.7% with these dragon charred casks. Now, it's getting kind of ridiculous on the marketing. It's matured in ex-bourbon casks charred by the fiery exhale of Dunnage Warehouse 3s. Definitely real and totally not made up. Flavor-breathing dragon. Intense aromas of soot and smoke like in weight, while grilled fare and black licorice mingle with bold notes of antiseptic lozenge. Its fragrant patchouli interlaces with bold notes of quenched steel and saddle soap. Billow clouds of sweet smoke and charred oak permeate the palate as briarwood, sage, and pine wisp their way to the fore.
Okay, I mean, there you go, folks. That says it all.
Basically, it's charred cast. I think that they do have Dunnage warehouses at Ardbeg supposedly, and these are super funky. I have a feeling they're going to be probably reminiscent of some sort of funky Ardbeg that reminds us of a Springbank. That's what I'm hoping for, but we'll see.
Yeah, speaking of Springbank, should we? We're basically at the top of the hour, so we dive into Longrow number 2.
Sounds good to me. I was just
right
looking at that Scorch stuff. That's interesting.
Yeah, let me give the tail of the tape here. This is the second Longrow we're going to be doing. If folks are just joining, Longrow peated line out of the Springbank Distillery. This is the 13-year Chilean Cabernet Sauvignon cask. It is non-chill filtered. It is natural color. It is 51.6% ABV, and it is matured 10 years in ex-bourbon, and then so this is interesting. This is matured for 10 years in a mixture of bourbon barrels and refill sherry. So third or more fill sherry, but the bourbon barrel makes me think maybe first fill. Refill means third, basically. Or wait, am I wrong about that?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, on that one.
If they say ex-bourbon or ex-sherry, that means it's basically second fill. But if they say refill, it's actually third or more. So it's a weird little language thing. So 10 years in bourbon barrels and refill sherry hogsheads, followed by 3 years in Cabernet Sauvignon barrels from Montgras Intriga Estate in Alto Magapo, located in the Andes in Chile. There are 9,000 bottles of this. Wow. It is natural filtered. It is natural color. This is the bottle. It is a Longrow Red. Looks very similar. They all say Springbank Distillery embossed here on the glass.
Which city in Chile was it? Sorry, I was actually interested.
Maybe say that again, bro.
I was honestly curious because I do study Chilean culture and stuff.
It is Alto Maipo. Maipo. It's at the foot of the Andes in Chile. Gotcha.
So it's probably in the north, I take it. Good. I do like a lot of the music and language, and they have, you got your, like we know the Aztecs and Mayans in Mexico, they have their own Quechua speaking people, Mapuche and all sorts of stuff going on in Chile. So it's interesting.
Don't forget Pinochet. You a big Pinochet fan?
Yeah, I know. He knows his dictators.
I know the dictators that our fair country likes to support, but man. That's the extent of my Chilean knowledge.
I was a Victor Jara fan, so there you go.
Wow, yeah, fuck yeah, man, totally. So yeah, we got another really nice Longrow. This is 2 years older. It is ex-sherry, ex-bourbon. Well, it's bourbon, ex-sherry, Oloroso, and 3 years Cabernet Sauvignon. So this is triple matured.
I think you're right because I don't see any X anywhere. This is all straightforward bourbon sherry and Chilean Cabernet. That's wild, man. Oh man, let's see here. You want me to go ahead and
Go for it.
start here? Let's see what we got here. Ooh. Wow, this is really similar, but it's definitely got more. It's got it has as much fruit, but this one to me has a little bit of more of a tartness to it.
Agreed.
Wow, like a compote. Huh. It's got some savory notes to it that I wasn't getting before. Like this one's got like a bit of like a pastry thing going on. Huh.
It is much more rounded. It smells older. The Dunnage Warehouse funk that I think was a bit absent on the 11 Pinot is much more in effect here. This, you know what this smells like to me? This smells like a freaking Glen Scotia 15 almost. Like the bourbon notes are so much stronger on this.
Yeah, it's got this. Wow, it's got a combination of leather and chocolate. It's like a mole chocolate, a little spicy.
Dude, yes, you hit it, mole.
I love that leather note that's along for the ride too. That's crazy. Huh.
The leather note is so strong on this. You're hitting the right notes.
Mm.
There's a bit of a vanilla. It's almost like it's like a cafe mocha, not necessarily vanilla. There's a bit of a like earthy, almost.
Yeah, like a tres leches kind of cake or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's it. That's it. Yeah. I was trying to think like, what is that spot there?
It's like a milk with the savoriness of the. That's what makes me think of like the tres leches cake. It's got like caramel, but it's also got the cream in there.
Much more peat on this one too. Like the effervescent peat, I think, comes through a lot more in the nose on this. Less smoke.
This one's got like fudgy properties I like too. It's got this like. And it's funny because it's wafting from a vanilla fudge all the way to the other side of the spectrum, like a. I don't want to say it's not like a chocolate or fudgy, like dark fudge. It's more like a butterscotch kind of a fudge. It's like a vanilla to butterscotch wave back and forth. Oh man, that's nice.
Oh man, wait till you taste it, bro.
A little bit more here.
Little lemon lime zest. Oh
yeah, a little bit of citrus. Yeah. All right, I guess it's time for a little taste.
Do it.
Whoa. That's that doesn't that's not a timid dram.
No.
Ooh, yeah, you do get like a. Wow, there's some lime coming through.
Big time.
That is quite different. Not what I expected, but it's still good. It's just a lot different. Wow.
A lot different.
Really nice. The first thing I get is the caramel, the butterscotch. Then it goes into more of a thickness. The mouth coat's a little thinner to me for some reason on this one versus the first, but it's not
interesting.
Like it's not thin to me or anything.
I'm actually finding this thicker. I think this is a little less dynamic and complex, but I feel like the subtleties are even more profound here. there is this juicy nectarine note that kind of like the tartness and the peach, like that yellow fruit peach, the citric level of that, like the chocolate is much more assertive here.
Getting some rhubarb too.
Rhubarb, great call. Nice long finish. Again, you get the charcoal ashiness, but there's a bit more of a vanilla soda, root beer kind of effervescent thing going on.
Yeah, the smoke definitely builds on this one more. So it's like it starts out kind of light, and the more you enjoy it, you definitely get more and more of a deeper smokiness to it. I have a little bit more neat first before I do any water. This one definitely is it definitely has a lot more citrus than that first one did. There was some, but this one's got like lemon lime zing to it.
Mm-hmm.
And usually I don't like lemon lime flavor, but this one's got so much other things going on in it. It doesn't like distract or take away from the experience, which is kind of nice too.
I feel like this has that core, like that concentrated center that kind of drives through everything that the Pinot 11 lacks. Like this one is much more dark chocolate fudgy thing, and I don't think it's losing any of its interesting complexity because of that. It just has more body because of it. So far, I'm going to do water in this one.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it because it's like, oh man, this is a tough one. It's in some ways it's really similar, but in other ways it's so different than that first one. It's kind of bizarre how different the noses at first were similar to me, and then the more I got into it, then the differences started coming. And then when I hit the palate, it was like, wow, this is a completely different experience altogether. I put a couple drops on there. 51.6, definitely awesome that it can take that and not get diluted. Oh, there we go. Now I'm getting my bourbon nose cask notes coming through, which I really like. Still getting that citrus glory. Huh. Let's get an interesting, almost like a polished type of note. Like a modeling clay almost.
Oh man, there's a mustiness to this that is just fucking fantastic. It reminds you of a Springbank 15 or a just that musty old basement damp wood. Oh, but it's so sweet and there's the fruit. Oh man, fucking killer.
That's one thing that's great about Springbank glasses in general, and I mean all of the Springbank stuff, is that they do a great job with somehow getting that musky antique store feel to all their drams, man. But they still aren't shy from giving you great fruit flavors and creams and caramelization and
Oh man, the water really does bring out more of the bourbon notes, especially on the finish. Cream soda, cafe mocha, white chocolate, the effervescence of the peat, the kind of tingling. It's just making it pop. There's juicy fruit gum, lemon lime, like a hint of a floral quality to it.
And you were right. This definitely has a bit more of a peat bite in the finish too, that you don't get off that first one that you do in this one.
Yep.
It's still got some smoky qualities. That first one I think is a little bit smokier, but this one, has got a bite.
I agree. The 11 Pinot was much smokier. I'd even say much smokier.
Man.
This fucking whiskey's awesome, man. I'm just gonna say it. It's awesome. I love this stuff. I need another bottle, I think.
It is really, really good. The only thing that makes me a little not weary, but kind of not nervous, but kind of apprehensive with the second one is there is a lot of citrus going on, and I do like citrus. It's almost reaching that point though of where it gets to me a little excessive, but it's not like too much where I'm kind of like, oh, I can't drink anymore. It's a really, really heavy on the lemon, lime, orange like side of things for me, but it's
I
still
don't get
good.
as much lemon lime. I get more orange. I mean, there's a little bit of lemon, but I hear what you're saying.
Thankfully, it's not pithy. At least I will give it definitely that. I don't like it when
it's not bitter. It doesn't have it's not bitter. God, but there's a nice, just bold red fruit concentrated thing here. It's juicy, like red apple.
This one's got more of an apple thing going on too on the palate.
I mean, we're talking about like the dominant notes that I think everybody would pick up. There's definitely a lot of subtleties that are subjective, but yeah, the red apple is really there. There's almost a sandalwood note. I mean, it almost borderlines on Mizunara. You know how crazy that sounds, but it's there. It's just that sandalwood, that kind of grainy, light brown sugary sweetness.
Yeah, like a cedar-y type of feel to it. I'm debating on whether I like it more with the water or without, and it's really tough for me for some reason on this one. The first one was easy to determine. I like the whole thing better with the water, but this one, I'm not quite sure. What about you? Do you have a preference with or without on this one?
I'm actually liking this a little bit more neat. I like this a little bit more neat. There is a little bit more astringency, like you were saying, lemon. It's almost like kind of like pledge cleaner, like it's very, very sharp,
furnish polish. Yeah.
For whatever reason, it works because everything else in this offsets it. Well, not offsets it, complements it so nice. The creaminess, the juicy red fruit. This is a much more. As the Pinot was a lot darker fruit, this is a much juicier red fruit. Again, nectarine, man. Nectarine. Ton of that. Vanilla, white chocolate, caramel, slight cafe mocha, a cappuccino type thing almost. It is just stellar. Longer finish, I'm thinking, too. But
man, this is a tough one. I think I agree with you. I think the water, might take away a little bit on this one, but it's tough. That's pretty darn good, though.
Yeah. What's up, Whisky Pilgrim?
Hey, man. Good to see you.
What's up on the late night from Sweden?
Oh, he's from Sweden.
Or Norway.
It's not the Norska Svenska Alza? I don't know.
Whisky Pilgrim beams his signal from across the pond, my friend.
Awesome. I'd like to know if you're from Norway or Sweden, Pilgrim. I'm just curious. Hopefully you said, well, I don't want to say that.
He's from Sweden.
Say again?
He's from Sweden.
Do you know Kent? You probably know them. They're one of my favorite bands, man. Kent is a band. Have you heard of them before?
He's a big metalhead, so
he's not gonna like Kent then. Have you ever heard of them?
I have not.
Oh, okay. If you're knowing the music you like, I'm not sure if you'd like them. They're not an aggressive band by any means, but as far as like good, like if you like Radiohead, that kind of music, they are like. They've have albums that sound like Radiohead. They have albums that sound like more like a Depeche Mode kind of feel. They're all over the place, but they are damn good as far as a band goes. Even though I don't understand, they've done some English music, but most of their stuff is in Swedish. And even though I don't understand what they're saying, great freaking songs.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you be listening to Attuned and drinking Springbank? Yeah.
Entombed. There you go. Let's get into a death black metal thing tonight, man. Who's got
Man.
some records?
Only darkest I go is like Slayer and Megadeth and like thrash stuff. I've never. Maybe Gojira. Gojira's pretty.
Gojira,
close.
they got a new album coming out in a month, man. Their new track is freaking amazing. I got to grab another battery for my vape. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay.
Do final thoughts.
Do you like Meshuggah? I'm just curious there. Yeah, they've been around for quite a while. They just quit, sadly, not too long ago, which made me really sad, but fun to still listen to time to time. Strawberries that get Bowmore Lemrig is the ultimate strawberry bomb. I want to try that. I'm curious. I'm kind of hesitant to do any Bowmore, standard bottles, but I'll make exceptions sometime. I do have my eye on this one that was doing really well in the reviews. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was a 27. Oh, let me ask Dustin might know this one. I'm sure he'll say don't bother, but it is one of the rare bottles of regular Bowmore. I hear that do actually pretty well. Let me see if I can find it. Was it that one? It could be. Was it the 27, I want to say? Let's look. Maybe. Oh, here he is. 1 second. Has anyone had or tried the Bowmore 27?
Nope.
The Vintner's Trilogy 27-year port cask. Now that one, I've heard actually really good stories of, and I've found it for an actual decent price. But with that said, I don't know if it's worth going down the road for that. Yeah, that's the one, Jimmy. Is that any good? Oh, here we go. We're talking about your notes in this red versus mine a bit. You two are really getting different notes, which is interesting. I wish my bottle wasn't packed up to compare. Yeah, it is weird that I'm not sure what it is about the some of these. Yes, he says the Bowmore 27 is excellent. Okay, good. Thanks, Jimmy. I was just curious because I've heard of all the bottles you're going to get. If you're going to get a distillery bottle, that's one of the ones to actually pick up maybe. So I might have to do that on the side. Looks like Edward D is talking about your hair, man. He says your hair is so long, dude. It looks good on you, though.
Cheers, homie. Yeah, it's been COVID hair, man. I haven't cut it in a year. And, well, eventually it's going to have to happen, but, it ain't happening yet. Appreciate it.
It's a shame that the Bowmore 15 Lamerick releases were available in the U.S., but they were 115 Canadian. Wow, that is a great price for that. I've heard of that release, but I've never tried it. Definitely on one of my radars. And I hear you there, Dustin. I'm very hesitant too, and this is why I wanted to reach out on that, because I've done a little homework and trying to find, like, if I was going to buy a Bowmore, which distillery bottle is smart to buy. And the only one I could really find that had any good feeling beyond like the 18 was the 27-year port cask. So that's why I thought it might be worth a little look-see. I believe around 90 on Whiskey Base. The 26 French Barrique is also very good. Okay. I heard that too. Actually heard that too, Jimmy. Good call on that. The only Bowmore I've liked was a bottle by them, yeah. Well, that's the reason.
Bottles Bowmore that isn't bad. It's a 15. But I don't know. I'm pretty ignorant about Bowmore, to be honest with you.
I was the same way until I tried a bunch of different ones, and I will agree that most of the stuff at first, I think it's a great entry to Isla just to get your feet wet, but I would definitely quickly move on to the other distilleries. Because once you come back to Bowmore, then you feel how like thin and watery it feels.
The 12 was so bad. Like, it was so disappointing. I wrote it off pretty much right away.
But I think the 18 was, I felt it was overpriced and I didn't get really what I wanted. But, if I'm looking for a high aged one, like 21 plus, it looks like it takes 26, 27 years to get what you're looking for out of the Bowmore stuff. But the good news is it's not priced crazily if you do your homework. So there's ways to maybe make it work. It kind of reminds me of Tomatin, where you really have to get like a high age to find maybe what you're looking for out of the distillery if you're not a big fan of the basic distillate. But we'll see how it goes. I know Dustin was saying that they just did a Big Pete 33 and it got way too much power in it that did it in for them. Wow, that's good to know, at least, though, for some of those guys. 'Cause I have had my eyes on some of those older blends and whatnot, and different bottlings from I've had a couple Big Pete's here and there. Not a 33er, though, man. That's crazy. What did that run? I'm just curious. Well, I guess we better dive into our final thoughts on the old
yeah, man. Let me hear it.
I did enjoy it. I drank it all pretty quickly. I'm going to get the last, like, literally 2 or 3 drops out just to have a little sip. But I did enjoy it. Now, even though I did not like the Pinot Noir as much, I still really enjoyed that one after the water. This one, I enjoyed both neat and with water. But it I don't know, man. I got some of the similar notes you were getting off of this one. I don't know if I'd enjoyed them as much as you did, but I did enjoy the complexity and the flow of the whiskey. It's a tough one on the rating on something like this, but even though this one's a little older, I'm not sure I might be as big of maybe a Cabernet Sauvignon fan as I am a Pinot Noir. That does have a lot to do, I think, with your enjoyment of whiskey and with wine in general. So that's that. I think the only thing that I didn't enjoy as much as this one as I did the first one is this one is definitely more citrus forward for me. I did enjoy the nectarines. I did get that. That, man, I get a shitload of lemon lime flavor, but I did get a lot of the other stuff. I did get the furniture polish and the almost like a pledgy kind of a feel. But I agree, it didn't like distract too much from it. It had that nice earthiness. I didn't get off the first one. I would agree, but after the water with the first one, I didn't feel like I was really missing it as much. With that said, I think I want to say this one I still enjoyed, maybe not as much as the first one. I'm going to give this one, for me, and this is subjective, guys, to an extent.
No, it's objective. Don't lie. It's the final word.
Well, I mean, what makes it tough is, like, not only are we, rating how we think the whiskey's crafted, which is great by all means, and the way it, it's put together and all that, but it's also how, what we're getting out of it enjoyment-wise as far as taste profile and stuff. And to me, this one was a little more acidic. I might give this one a slightly lower scored. I think the first one after water, I think, was maybe more balanced, just for me. I'm going to give this one, I think, a 3.75. I think it's right there. It is damn good. It's a hell of a lot better than average at 3. It is right there. I gave this one a 4. This one I'm gonna say 3.75 on.
Okay. So tell us the scores. The Longrow Red 11 Pinot with 4 out of 5. The Longrow 13 Chilean Cabernet Sauvignon is a 3.75. My final thoughts on this: I really enjoyed this one. I did not pick up as much of the lemon lime that you were picking up. For me, it was a lot more kind of like fresh red fruit, but I did get some lemon. I did get some lemon lime. I won't lie, but I don't think it was as profound for me. This one had a little bit more depth to it than the Pinot, which I quite enjoyed. Maybe that extra 2 years did it justice. Also, the sherry. I really like this. I mean, it's $135 bottle probably.
Wow.
Retail is a little bit much. I was at 3.5 out of 5 on the Pinot. I'm going to go 3 Yeah. I'm going to go 3.75 out of 5 on the Chilean Cabernet Sauvignon 13. So healthy scores from both of us. These are good whiskeys. I mean, I think the secondary notes, the notes that you pick up outside of the dominant ones, you know, when you're sipping a whiskey like this, like there's a lot to be discovered in these, and that's what I think gives it its quality. These are both relatively young, but man, I'm struggling. I was close to a 4 on this one, but I do think just because, you could, I don't know, if I was going to critique it, you'd like just a little bit more balance. I think this one's a little bit more unbalanced. The Pinot I thought was a bit more balanced despite it being a lower score for me. I just would like a little bit more balance on this, but all in all, really solid. So I'm going to go 3.75. So the final scores on our 2 Longrow tastings tonight. Telex the Whiskey Tech, 4.4 out of 5 on the Longrow Red 11 Pinot Noir matured, 3.5 from Malt Muser, and 3.5 from Telex on the 13 Chilean Cabernet Sauvignon. 3.75 from Malt Muser. So those are your scores. These are good scores.
3.75 for me on that one.
Oh, you were 3.75 too. Okay, so we were 3.75 on this.
Yeah, the first one I gave a 4 out of 5 on, and the second one I gave a 3.75 out of 5 on that one.
Yeah, so definitely recommend these are good whiskeys to try, y'all.
By far, yeah.
You know, if you're into the complexity that comes with a good Longrow, Springbank, all that. These are good whiskeys. I hope, if folks have had a chance to try these, let us know in the chat. Do you agree, disagree? If you enjoyed these reviews, take a second, smash that thumbs up. It'll help out Telex's channel and will give us some love on the Telex and Malt show, which we are rapidly approaching 1 year on, my friend.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's been a year at all, but man, it's this year has in some ways has flown by, and in some ways has dragged by. And the good parts with us have been great. It's just all the other crap that we have to deal with on a daily basis is the bad part.
Ain't that the truth?
But no, I agree. It's
left. It's free form. I see Stephen Connor's in the house. He needs to find something to pour. Thanks for the support, Stephen Connor. Appreciate you, man. Always like having it in. A little bit more with you on the Pinot being really good and the 13 being good. Right on.
Jason, I would try one out if you get a chance to. If you like, I would base it off of the wine that you enjoy. If you like wine already, it's a lot easier to pick that way.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, I'm going to have to pour a little something for the last half hour here. What do you think, Alex?
Man, that's a tough one. I do have a couple new bottles here. I have not opened those, but I do have a couple other ones that I might have to take a little nibble at. This is a tough one. Because I could do the Cragganmore 20 or maybe the Craigellachie 23 exceptional cask. Man, there's so many choices. What do you think? What are you going to pour?
Man, I'm thinking I'm going to stick with the peat because my palate is sufficiently peated. I'm thinking I'm going to do, something peat. I'm going to do, I need something with some sherry in it too. I think I'm going to do Ugadal.
Uh-oh. Telex open the 23. The Craigellachie.
Do it.
The Craigellachie 23 exceptional cask. Well, we are going to be doing this for a show, so I'm not going to give too many notes. I'll tell you some of the stuff that I guess I get from it. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do an Octamore. This is the Octamore. It doesn't have sherry, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is the Octamore 6.1. Scottish barley, 57%. Actually, you know what? No, I know which one I'm going to do. I'm going to do the Octamore 10-year-old. This is the 4th edition of the Octamore 10, freaking killer stuff. This is at just over 9, so it's 10 years old, 54.3%. Yeah, I'm gonna go Octamore.
All right. Let's see. So what'd you end up grabbing out of there? That's an Octamore. I can tell by the bottle.
Yeah, this is the 10-year-old Octamore. This is the 4th edition, 208 ppm, if that matters to you, 54.3%.
Hold on, what was the ppm?
208.
That does make a difference. Isn't it scary that I knew what that was by just seeing the bottle? I didn't even see anything else, and I knew it was an Octamore.
Yeah.
It scares me.
A 10-year-old, the 2nd edition, but I haven't cracked that yet. So yeah, I'm gonna do a little Octamore. Stick with the peat. I quite like this. This is, I think my favorite Octamore so far has been the 10.3, which is the local barley, I think from last year. But I have not had a lot of them. So, but this one is awesome. A lot of tropical fruit.
What is this? The one that you were thinking of, Dustin? This is the Exceptional Cask 23 year. This is from September 19th, 1995. Wow, I graduated in high school in '94, so I would have been a year out in college. Wow, this is crazy. Bottling in 2019. 23-year cask number 4575. It's a sherry. It's 57.5%. That sounds good. Is this the one that you were thinking of? Oh, Dustin says, yeah. I wish I had 2 bottles, not just one. I hear you there, man. As you can tell, I've been slowly enjoying it a little bit.
You've been into it. Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've been kind of sipping on it. I was kind of curious to see what I thought, and without giving a whole lot away, I was pleasantly surprised.
Was that the one that I snagged for you, or is that a different one?
That's the one you snagged for me, believe it or not. Yeah, you definitely got lucky with that one, man, because that's not something that's easily found.
Yeah, no, I was happy to find. I knew that there was the other one, but the Cragganmore.
That was another great one too that we'll be taking a look at. I think that a lot of people will enjoy. This one after having this, I noticed that Elberfeldy, which is also owned by these same guys at Duker Gillicky, they have the same exceptional cask series. So I'm going to try to find this. They've got a 21-year or 20-year exceptional cask from Elberfeldy. I'm going to try to see that one.
The 20-year Sauternes, they have it at Potomac for $189.
189.
Yeah, I saw it today. The 20-year-old Sauternes finished exceptional cask, 43%. Apparently, it's good.
Let me see something, because I want to make sure the price is what I think it is before I tell you. Because I did find it local. I haven't picked it up yet. It's on the to-do list after I get us that glorious 34-year Ball Blair 83. Thank God Stephen Connor sent me a sample of that, because if I never tried it, man, I would have been like missing out. Oh, they got this Elberfeldy Exceptional Cask Series 20-year for $199.99.
Look at Potomac; they are selling it for $189.
Okay, the only that's a tough one, because going to Ellicott City is about as difficult as going to DC from here. So it's kind of tough to make a decision. I'll probably get it for my guy only because he does me justice on finding things / discounts and stuff, because I always buy from them. You know what I mean?
Speaking of whiskeys, I'm going to give folks a little preview of what's coming up next on the Telex and Malt show.
Sure.
So, next week, it's going to be St. Patrick's Day Eve. So naturally, Telex and I are going to be dipping into the Irish side of things. We are going to be doing the Nepogue Castle 14-year-old Twinwood. By the way, I think is a super whiskey. It is freaking killer. And in hour number 2, I mean, what can you say about it other than wow? Redbreast 21. So we're going to be doing some good Irish whiskeys next week.
I never had one, so I'm looking forward to that big time.
Yeah, and we're going to follow that up on the 23rd. We're we're going to be doing Kilhoman. So we're going to be doing the Kilhoman USA Batch 3, which I'm thinking Telex is really going to like. And then Telex was awesome enough to grab two bottles from the highly renowned Jack Rose whiskey bar in Washington, D.C., probably the best whiskey bar in the country. He has two slightly peated versions of Kilhoman we're going to be tasting there. And I do have to just interject for a second. This week we lost Harvey Fry, who was basically the whiskey buyer for Jack Rose Distillery. Harvey was a DC legend, a staple in that neighborhood, in that bar. That guy I spent 2 hours with him randomly one night, not knowing who he was. And his whiskey knowledge and understanding of single malt Scotch whiskey probably is unmatched by anybody I've ever met. And it's a huge loss. I wonder what is going to happen to whatever was in his basement, because there were thousands of bottles down there.
Wow.
Yeah, that guy is a fucking living legend. And, for folks in the DMV or in DC, or just whiskey folks in general, I'm just going to raise a glass, man, to Harvey. Slancheva, man. Happy trails. Like, dude, fucking legend. Cheers.
That's sad, man. I didn't know about that. Hopefully, hopefully it goes to a good home. I know Malt and Telex would love to see a good bottle or two of a collection like that, because we would actually know what it is and appreciate it. So
here's a funny story about Harvey, and I'll just share this really quick. Harvey was a man of very nuanced and particular taste. He was an overweight dude with a long beard. You'd see him sitting in this bar, and if you've been to Washington, D.C., the guy looked like a fish out of water. Like, you sit in a D.C. bar, it's all young professionals, all this shit, right? So what is his name now? I got to look. I'm forgetting his name. He wrote this book. Robin Robinson. He was one of the first brand ambassadors for Compass Box here in the United States. And Compass Box did a tasting at Jack Rose. And Harvey walked by the Compass Box table, and Robin was like, "Hey, do you want to try this Compass Box?" And he said, "No, I'm not going to touch that." He's like, "But you're like the whiskey guy at this bar. Like, don't you want to taste it?" He's like, I only drink single malt Scotch.
Yeah.
He only drinks single malt Scotch. He would not touch a blended Scotch. And
if he had the phenomenology, he'd change his mind.
Yeah. And the night went on, and he went back to try to evangelize the Compass Box to him, but Harvey wouldn't do it. But they ended up having a great conversation. Ultimately, apparently, Harvey did try the hedonism and said it was, quote, interesting. Harvey was a legend, man. He was a DC legend. I was fortunate in my 3 years there to drink with that guy one night. And, there are so many people out there who are just a wealth of knowledge and grateful to share their knowledge, and not in a pretentious way. I know in the case of the Compass Box guy, he was a little pretentious. But if you were sitting at the bar, Harvey would sit there and tell you about the thousands of whiskeys they had there and point you in the right direction, and had a love for single malt Scotch that, we all do to some degree. And the way we talk about it, the way we share things with others, that's what makes it great.
Did he have long white hair like great?
Yes.
I think I actually met him when I was in.
I bet you did.
That is crazy, because I was lucky enough to be invited by Tosh Nass, who is he owns that Jinsu ramen bar down in DC, and we went. He took me to one of those whiskey extravaganza type of shows. This was not the same as the Whiskey Fest from like the magazine. It was a different one. And I think he was at that one, because that's where I met the lady Tracy, who does Glenfiddich ambassador. I think she was there too. Both people were great and friendly. So that's a shame, man.
Yeah, it's a loss, man. He was he was a legend, and he was like a stalwart from a different time. I mean, in a city like DC, he was one of these types of guys that, like, again, he was a fish out of water in that bar in terms of the clientele, but this guy was, he was a legend nobody probably knew more about Scotch whiskey in Washington, D.C. than Harvey Fry. And I have his card in my wallet still because he gave it to me after I sat and talked to him for 2 nights, for 2 hours one night. And I was bummed to see the news, but he was a generous heart, and like he sat there and talked to me about Scotch and didn't act like a dick and didn't try to tell me about what was good and bad. He was just trying to be like educating me, and that's what we all should be trying to do at the end of the day, trying to share what we've learned and help everybody else on their journey. And got mad love for the guy. So
I hear you there, man. I think as soon as you said fish out of water, and when you said gray hair, I had this picture of this guy that was heavy set, and he did this kind of, it's like he was sitting kind of not completely by himself, but kind of like in the corner.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly. You're exactly right. That's exactly him, man.
I had him in him. Then I was lucky because this was probably 4 years ago, I think, when I finally got to go. So I'm glad I got to maybe, if I was lucky enough, I'll have to ask Tosh if that was him, but that'd be awesome if I got to meet him before he passed.
No, that's exactly what you're thinking about. I mean, if any, and I'm not going to like belabor this, but like if you ever, any of y'all are in Washington, D.C., you have to go to Jack Rose Saloon. The Jack Rose Saloon is, you're hard pressed to find a better whiskey bar in the United States. The amount of quality picks they have, the knowledge they have, the entire walls of the place from ceiling to floor are covered in whiskey bottles. This place doesn't play. They're probably the best, one of the best you can find in the United States. And Harvey was a big part of that. The brand ambassador, I've been fortunate enough to hang out with some of the staff from there who do live shows with us. I'm part of the Philadelphia Whiskey Society. We were going to pilgrimage down there to have a private tasting before COVID happened last year.
Oh, man.
We've done some virtual stuff. So next week, when you and I are drinking Kilhoman's, those Jack Rose picks could very well be picks from Harvey Fry.
Oh, so I'm sure.
They're going to be killer. They're going to be killer. And it's a great homage to a fucking legend of the DC whiskey scene, for sure.
That's awesome, man. I was definitely looking forward to him. As soon as my buddy Tom was like, "Hey, are you interested in some slightly peated Kilhoman?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" Because I mean, anything that they release is pretty good, and I can only imagine that the slightly peated like presentation is going to let me even enjoy the distillate more, because I do like their base distillate tremendously. Like the original cask strength, the base, the green, not the first release, but the second quarter cask, the original, cask that they released.
Yeah.
It's a quarter cask release too. That is one of the best whiskeys I've ever had, bar none. It's 4.5 to 4.75 out of 5 all day long for that one, and that's a classic. So I even like it better than Loch Gorham and all the other ones, pretty much.
Yeah, for sure. It's the way it goes, but you have the opportunity to meet somebody who's like, I mean, this guy, he'd look at you. He just looked at you. He drank everything out of he didn't use Glencairns. He used those, those big ornate glasses, and he would sit there and just sip it. And he was dry. The first, when I met him that night, the first thing he was drinking some type of obscure Lagavulin, and he was ranting and raving about Lagavulin and how much he doesn't like Art Bag because he thinks Mickey Heads was a chump and didn't have good taste and all of this. And I was like, really? I want to try the Supernova. He's like, no, Lafroig. You go Lafroig. And pointed me towards a couple single cask Lafroigs they had. And yeah, it was the whole thing. But anyways, yeah. So cheers to that.
I have not opened this yet, Stephen. This is a show that we're going to do. I picked up a bottle for Eric, Malt Muser here, and myself. I was lucky enough to get 2 of them, and we'll be taking a look at that. And you're more than welcome to join us for that show. We might move it up. I'm not sure what the schedule's looking like, but we can definitely let you know beforehand, of when we're going to be doing it. I had a quick question for Dustin. With this Krigelliki, did you enjoy it more neat or with water, or was it equal on both? I was just curious of how you enjoyed that particular bottle the most. Sorry, Eric, go ahead.
Nope, I got nothing. I'm just pouring a little Octo.
Is that as good as you thought it would be?
The Octamore 10?
Yeah.
This is very good. Is it, I don't know, $200 some good?
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
You have to love the peat for Octamore. You have to really love the peat.
Yeah, I agree. But the peat ppm thing is a total misnomer, because you can't, the human palate can't really taste beyond 35, 40 ppm. So the idea of like 200 ppm is more marketing, in my opinion. That said,
hold on, but if I gave you a 200, and I think one of the was 7.3, for example, was like 269, and then I gave you one that was like 40, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between those two? I'm sure you would.
Not in terms of the peat level. Like after a certain amount of time, and I've heard this from a Diageo rep exclusively, so this is my knowledge on it. I have done comparisons, and I largely agree. I think an Ardbeg 10 is just as peaty as this. You can't taste it because at a certain point your tongue just can't pick it up. It doesn't mean that everything else vis-a-vis the flavor profile isn't influencing it, but like it is what it is. I
want you to blind test me sometime. We'll do it. Yeah. Pick like the peatiest whiskey you want to pick, and pick one that's around 30 to 40. We don't have to do it right away, but at some point I want to just see. Here's the
thing, Telex. I mean, we'll do it blind, but I'll just ask you this one straight question. Have you drank a Octamore, which was 200x peat, and found it 5 to 6 times more peated than something like an Ardbeg? I would argue that you probably didn't.
I picked when my first Octamore was the 7.1. I want to say it was, or the 6.1. It was either the 6.1 or the 7.1. And when I did initially try it, not knowing even what the ppm of it was, I thought it had a hell of an initial effervescent bite to it that I couldn't explain the difference of it versus some of the other heavy, what I would consider. And I didn't even know there was a difference in peat at the time, like heavy peat versus not as heavy. But to me, it definitely had more of it's hard to explain that effervescent bite of peat, but it had more of a abrasiveness, and a good abrasiveness to it.
A great one to compare this to would be the Lagavulin Jazz Fest 2018. I think they have the same profile in terms of their flavor, and I guarantee you, again, this is my hypothesis, you won't be able to tell the difference. And that's not to slight Octamore. Like, I know that their bread and butter is advertising they're the most heavily peated whiskey, which they are. But what I think is actually the most amazing thing, about the Octamore range isn't the fact that it's, 500% more peated. It's that what they're doing with 4 to 5 year distillate and making it through the maturation as tasty as it is. That's interesting. That's what interests me more.
But don't you think that higher peat level is giving it that difference that you're looking for to make that 7-year whiskey be at that level?
Maybe that's the case, but I wouldn't say that you can actually detect it on the palate at the level that you would be able, like that 500 times more would, would stand to reason, right? Like it's not five times more peated than, I don't know, Ardbeg 10 when you actually taste it.
I'm just thinking that I could tell. I won't say for definite sure until we do the blind, but I would love to be able to prove it because I swear to God, I always thought that when I had like some of the like the 150 to 250 ppm stuff versus the 40 to 80, I thought was a huge difference on the palate, but I might be psychologically picking it up from numbers, but I could have swore I thought that before I even knew what the.
I mean, I would have thought the same thing. And like, yeah, Octamores are super intense and delicious. Excuse me, but like a 200 ppm versus a 30 ppm stands to reason that if you follow logically, that's 6 to 7 times more intense. It's not. I don't know.
I thought it was, but maybe
6 to 7 times more intense than an Ardbeg 10. I don't know.
I thought when I first had the 6.1 or 7.1, whichever one it was, I thought it was a tremendous difference versus like the Ardbeg 10, Lafroig 10, even the Cask strength. I thought that that thickness of that. Oh man, the bite of it was so intense comparatively, but I gotta have it blind, man. I wish someone could blind both of us and say, okay, here's a 40. We're gonna give you 3 whiskeys. Here's a 40, here's a 120, and here's a 260. Which one's which? And see if we could find out the difference. That would be a perfect blind if we had the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we would just have to make sure that they were matured in the same things, but
Yeah, like I'm trying to think, like a straightforward, like for the 40, a straightforward Ardbeg 10, for the 160-ish, like a straightforward Octamore 6 or whatever, and for like the 269, like the 7.3 or one of the 0.3s. Those are usually the higher ppm releases I've noticed. So like a standard, like an Ardbeg 10 or a Lafroig 10, an Octamore 7.1 or 6.1, and then an Octamore 0.3. That would be like the perfect, I think, blind to see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm totally down to do it. And like, again, to be clear, I think the hypothesis is the exponential growth of the peat is diminishing returns. And that's because you literally can't taste it. I'm totally down to do it blind. We'll do it sometime.
I want to prove him wrong. That'd be a fun one. I don't know if I could do it, but I think I could because it's funny. I think certain people have a knack for detecting like older whiskey versus younger, or more peat versus less peat, more smoke versus less smoke, more florals versus herbals and all. And there's all these little nuances that I think there are different strengths and weaknesses for different palates. Because one thing I cannot detect as well, I think, is maybe it depends on the finish or the cask, is the age thing. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. But when it comes to like the peat or the smoke levels and stuff, usually I could pick up on that. But I'd love to be tested by that at some point.
Yeah, that'll be fun. We'll make it happen. So yeah, we're getting close to the wrap up, but I wanted to give folks again just a rundown of kind of what is coming up next on the Telex and Malt. So by the way, if you've yet to subscribe to Telex of Whiskey Tech, feel free to subscribe to Malt News with Whiskey Reviews. We appreciate your support. Give us a
big time.
That is, it's huge. We appreciate it. And each and every week we do this because it's, as I always say, I learn more from y'all than anybody else. So it's a lot of fun. Here's what you guys got coming up next. As I was saying earlier, our next show is going to be on St. Patrick's Day Eve. So we are doing some serious Irish whiskeys. Next week, you can expect Napogue Castle, 14-year-old Twinwood, and Redbreast 21. On the 23rd of March, we're doing the Kilhoman USA Batch 3 Port Sherry Bourbon. Telex is going to love that one. And we're doing the Jack Rose picks of Kilhoman, slightly peated.
I think I like those a lot too.
Yeah, those are going to be fantastic. And, we'll pay homage to Harvey Fry for those probably. And then to close out March on the 30th, we're going to be doing a non-Isla peated show because there's a bunch of peated whiskey out there, heavily peated, that is not from Isla. We are going to be doing Lecheg Rioja cask finish and the Aaron quarter cask of the Bothy. Well, that's going to parlay us into a Sherry Bomb Fest. First week of April. Edredauer 10, Edredauer 21. So you're not going to want to miss that. Do subscribe, hit the bell, subscribe to Malt Muser Whiskey Reviews, subscribe to Telex the Whiskey Tech, give us a thumbs up. We are excited to share our dumb 2 cents on these whiskeys and hope you guys will enjoy it as well. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we got some really good gems coming for we got shows planned out till like July almost, which is crazy. So that's
yeah, we're not going anywhere,
and we're still getting lots of new whiskeys coming in. I've got my eyes on like on Elgin 18, that old Ballblair I talked about. We're going to be looking at some Benriach, some Glenellichys. Glenellicha 25 is going to be really hopefully a good one. I'm going to be picking up that one soon. And we it's going to be just an entertaining ride. Definitely.
And this is fun because of y'all, man. I mean, like, you guys make this show. We Telex and I are we're whiskey nerds, but shit, we learn so much from you guys each week, and we hope that we're providing at least some sense of like, hey, this is a whiskey you should buy. This is a whiskey you shouldn't. And, it's fun.
And when we do this Craigellachie show, Dustin, you got to come by for this because I will agree. This is going to be a fun show to do. I think when we ever look at the some more Craigellachie down the road.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying that one. I did not pour a sample, but I know we'll meet up again. And I might save a little bit for you. You got if you find it in your heart, my friend, maybe save me just a little taste, because I want to know when
a wee little drink.
23-year-old Craigellachie is going to taste like.
Oh man, you're gonna. I think you're gonna shit your pants and enjoy that one.
Good.
I think it's gonna be.
I haven't shit my pants whiskey in a while. So I need one.
The Glencadam 21 was no joke. That was
the Glencadam 21. No, you're right. The Glencadam 21 was probably the one that hit that mark. That is a just absolutely stellar whiskey. I mean, you remember we did the Glencadam show, and then within a week, I had a bottle of it on my shelf because I was like, I need this in my life.
Yeah, you even got Dustin to shell out some money for that bottle, so I think it went down pretty well.
Single casks too, if I'm not mistaken. But all right, y'all.
All right, man.
I am going to sign off, but again, much love to everybody. I hope everybody stays healthy, be well. Appreciate everybody's support as always. I am dropping another Irish whiskey review on Friday. It is of the Redbreast USA exclusive small batch.
Nice.
So, if you're subscribed, check that out. If not, feel free to hit that subscribe button, and make sure you do that for Telex as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming, and every week I look forward to it. Even by like Thursday, I'll be like, "Is it Tuesday yet?" So you know how that goes. But yeah, I'm looking forward to jumping into some of these other ones that we picked up recently, and a couple Highland Parks. And I mean, it's going to be lots of fun all around, and it only gets better from here. Especially once we get people vaccinated, and we'll be able to meet up maybe and do a couple like shows. We'd like to do a show in person at some point, maybe down the road if we could.
It's gonna happen.
But you're moving to LA though pretty soon, aren't you? Or is that in the
TBD? But it's possible. But we got plenty of time.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna hold you to that because if you move to LA, man, that's gonna be tougher to do. But we'll figure it out.
A little bit tougher. But I hope everybody can join us next week for some really cracking Irish whiskeys. Really excited to share these and Telex. I think you're going to really enjoy them as well. So until then, everybody stay safe, be well, wear a mask, don't get COVID.
Slanchava.
Much love. Peace.